Good morning, welcome to Day 2's learning. So today in Maths, Year 5 are looking at ordering and comparing fractions. So our learning objective is to order and compare fractions, believe it or not. When we look at these two fractions, 2/6 and 4/6, they are really easy to compare and order. We can see that this pie is split into 6 pieces and 2 pieces are coloured in. So the denominator shows it's 6 pieces it's been split into, and the numerator tells you how many pieces have been coloured in. On this side, we have a pie that's been split into 6 pieces also, the denominator, and 4 pieces have coloured in. So because the denominators are the same, we are able to directly compare the two fractions. Therefore, we know that 4/6 is bigger than 2/6. However, what would we do if the denominators were not the same? From our learning objective, we had 2 really important words. We had compare and we had order. If we are comparing something, we're thinking about how they're different or similar to one another. When we are ordering something, we are arranging them according to the size of them. So the fractions, it might be from smallest to largest or from largest to smallest, depending on the question. Example, 4/6 and 1/3 both have different denominators. They're split into different amounts of pieces. Now we could draw out pies like on the last ones. However, it's going to be really difficult to ensure it's accurate, and it's going to be really difficult to work out the same size pieces. Therefore, we need to think of another way to do that. Now you might remember from doing this at the beginning of last term that we had to do something to the denominators. We need to find the lowest common multiples. And if you think back to our last learning journey, the lowest common multiple might ring a bell. So we need to think of the lowest number that goes into both these numbers that we can make the denominator. So I know that the lowest I can get these numbers is probably going to be 3. Now it doesn't have to be one of the denominators. For example, if this one was 12 and not 3, I could still use 3 because 3 goes into 12 as well. So I know that to turn this into 3, I need to divide that by 2. Now whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So if I divide that by 2, I have to divide this by 2. That means that my new fraction is going to be 2 over 3. So now that both my denominators, that's my old fraction, don't need that anymore. Now that my new denominator and my original other fraction both have the same denominators, I can directly compare them. So I can see that actually 4/6 is bigger than 1/3, because obviously it's turned into 2/3, which is bigger than 1/3. Let's try it one more. So I want to compare these two fractions. Therefore, I know I need to try and change them both so they have the same denominator. Now, I could times this by 2. That's not my lowest common multiple. My lowest common multiple is going to be 5. So I want to turn this into 5. Therefore, I divide by 2. And I divide this one by 2. Then my new fraction becomes 3 over 5. Therefore, comparing 3 over 5 and 4 over 5, I can see that actually 4 over 5 is a bigger fraction than 6 over 10. Okay, so my next two fractions are 6 over 15 and 15 over 25. Now, in order to convert both of these into the same denominator, I need to make sure that I am dividing them by the right number. Now, my lowest common multiple for both of these fractions is going to be very different. For example, I know that 5 goes into both of these. So to make both of the denominators 5, I need to divide this by 3, which means I also need to divide this by 3. And I'm going to divide this by 5, which means I also have to divide this by 5. So I look at this first fraction. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. So I've converted that into 5. This side now, 15 divided by 5 gives me 3. 25 divided by 5 gives me 5. Therefore, I can see that actually this one is the bigger fraction. With my next two fractions, I've got a third and I've got 2/5. Now, I can't divide these denominators to give me a common multiple, but I can multiply these numbers to give me a common multiple. So I can times this number by 5, and I can times this number by 3, which means I have to do the same to the numerators. That means I'm going to end up with 5 over 15, and I'm going to end up with 6 over 15. Therefore, I can see that 2/5 is actually bigger than 1/3. If I'm comparing and ordering more than one fraction, I still have to think about which number or which multiple each of these denominators have in common. So here I've got 1/4, 6/16, 7/8 and 4/32. I know that all of these numbers could be turned into 32. However, that would not be my lowest common multiple. I think my lowest common multiple is going to be 8. Now, I know it's not going to be 4, because if I try and divide this to turn its denominator into 4, I'm going to have 16 divided by 4, which is 4, so that would work, but 6 divided by 4 would not work. So I'm going to choose 8 as my common denominator with all of these fractions, as my common multiple, sorry, all of these fractions. So I'm going to try and turn this, this and this into a fraction that has a denominator of 8. So to do that for this fraction, I have to multiply this by 2, same as the numerator. This one I have to divide by 2, same as the numerator. This one is fine, I can leave it alone. This one I need to divide by 4. So now I've ended up with 2 over 8. I end up with 3 over 8. I've still got 7 over 8. And I end up with 1 over 8. Now for a minute, let's pretend this is a test style question, and the question asked me to order these fractions. So I had 1/4, 6/16, 7/8 and 4 over 32. Now, here's my box that I need to, in the test paper, order them into. And I've managed to convert them, but I do not want to write the converted answers into the boxes. I need to be writing the original fractions. So we're going to start with the smallest up to the largest. Now I can see that my smallest fraction is actually 4 over 32, because when I converted it, it turned into 1/8. My second biggest, smallest fraction is 1/4, because when I converted it, it was 2/8. My third biggest one is 6 over 16. So when I converted it, it was 3/8. And actually what you can do is cross these out as you write them in, so you don't forget which ones you've done. And the fourth biggest one, the largest fraction out of all of these, is 7/8. Now that you are able to convert and order fractions, think about how you might use that tip where we've ordered 2 fractions to order more than 1. You're going to need to find the common multiple of all of those fractions. So for your task today, I've got a grid that looks like this. You can find this on the Year 5 weekly planning, and obviously yours is a printed copy. I have had to draw mine out even, without a ruler. So you're going to have to excuse my messy lines. And what you have at the side is some fractions which you need to place into this grid. Now every row and column needs to go from smallest to largest. Excuse me. And you are going to have to place those fractions into that order the best that you can. It's a little challenge for you. If you finish this grid, you might want to try and make up your own grid. It's got some trickier fractions in it.